What's going on, everyone? And War Eagle to my Auburn family. This is Ceasear Walker, 1/4 of the War Rapport family. Do me a quick favor, guys. Before we get into our power rankings, follow us on social media. The information is below. We're constantly tweeting, posting information throughout the week. So definitely do us a favor and follow us on those platforms. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do us a quick favor and do that, as we're continuously trying to post information and put content out there for you sports lovers to consume. We would greatly appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's get the show started with talking about our weekly power rankings. Week 14 is in the books, as well as the 2019-2020 season. Seems like it took it forever to get here, and now it's a wrap, guys. It's in the books. So without further ado, let's start with our power rankings. There's been a shakeup after a very interesting weekend. So let's get to it. Coming in at number 14, the Arkansas Razorbacks, no change there. They've been at 14 for the past several weeks since I've been doing these power rankings. They finished the season 2-10, still winless in the SEC for the second consecutive year, and are currently looking for a new head coach to lead their program. That brings us to number 13, the Vanderbilt Commodores. Finished 3-9, 1-7 in conference play. And Derek Mason, he still has a job, so we'll see if he can improve the next year. Disappointing year for them. We remember the golden years that they had, relatively speaking, when they had Franklin as their head coach. But under Mason, they've kind of underperformed, and this year was no different. So at number 13 is Vanderbilt. Number 12 is the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss Rebels fired their coach this past weekend after a very disappointing and embarrassing loss to Mississippi State. They finished the year 4-8, 3-5 in conference, and are currently in search of a new person to lead the program and energize their fan base. Disappointing year for Ole Miss, nonetheless, and it ended in a even more disappointing fashion. So at number 12 is the Ole Miss Rebels. That brings us to number 11, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Muschamp still has his job, but he did shake up his staff over the weekend by demoting an assistant, or his coordinator, offensive coordinator, and letting go of two other assistants. So, if he was able to save his job, best believe some of his assistants were not able to save theirs. So it'll be interesting to see what changes he makes and if that makes a difference leading into next season. This was not a good year for Muschamp, not a good year for South Carolina. This is a proud program that did enjoy some relative major success under Spurrier. This is a school that actually went to the SEC championship and represented the East a time or two. So 4-8 is a little bit beneath them. That's enough to get the fan base grumbling a bit. And let's see if Muschamp can turn it around. So at number 11 is the Gamecocks. That brings us to number 10, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State won in a very, very entertaining game for them. They avoided overtime through Ole Miss basically, missing a field goal after an egregious, unsportsmanlike penalty. So they're bowl eligible. Another disappointing season for Mississippi State. Again, this is another program that enjoyed a good deal of success. I wouldn't say a good deal, but relative success under Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen had them winning, like a down year for Mississippi State under Dan Mullen with 7 wins. 6-6, at least they're bowl eligible, but it's been kind of tough sledding for Joe Moorhead at Mississippi State. So it'll be interesting to see how he moves the program forward in the upcoming year and how they play in the bowl game. How they fare in the bowl game would really send a message and determine where they go from here in the upcoming year. That brings me to number 9, the Missouri Tigers. Missouri Tigers are coachless. They went ahead and fired Barry Odom after their win against Arkansas, 24-14, I believe. 6-6 was a bit of a disappointment. Again, as I've said in previous power rankings, they were expected to do better. With the quarterback transfer from Clemson, Kelly Bryant, they expected to do a lot, but of course he got injured, and they just were up and down. At times they looked like they were going to improve and actually make noise in the SEC East, and then they just fell off the cliff, it seems. So they rounded off at 6-6. They're bowl eligible, but kind of a disappointing 6-6. I mean, you can kind of switch Missouri and Mississippi State in terms of the disappointing year that they've had in similar records. But I have Missouri at number 9. That brings me to number 8, the Kentucky Wildcats. It's been a good year for Kentucky, actually. Kentucky finished 7-5, 3-5 in the conference. They got better as the year went on, and beating Louisville in their rivalry game convincingly was a great finish to what was a strong end at the end of the season. So, hats off to Mark Stoops for the great job he did coaching. The offense seemed like they've been clicking. The defense, I believe, going back to like beginning of like October, I don't think any team scored more than 14 points against Kentucky. So Kentucky just have done a good job. Again, I keep emphasizing in previous power rankings that they lost a lot of guys the previous season. So for them to bounce back and get better and end the season strong at 7-5 is definitely nothing to blink about. I mean, it's nothing to look down upon. They had a very good showing towards the end of the year. So coming in number 8, the the Kentucky Wildcats. Number 7 is the Tennessee Volunteers, who also finished the season strong. Something to note about Tennessee and why I have them at 7 is that this team actually is 5-3 in the SEC. Granted, they got a little fat off of some of the weaker teams in the East, but they're 5-3 nonetheless. You have to give Jeremy Pruitt a lot of credit for the job he did after bouncing back after 2 very tough losses early in the year against Georgia State and BYU. I think that the way they ended the season, and it's going to be particularly interesting. I'm going to be watching Tennessee in the bowl game, depending on who they get matched up with. I want to see how they fare in the bowl season, and if they can get to 8-5, that should start to turn some heads in terms of their fan base and get them excited towards what could be under the Jerry Pruitt era. Can he build on this success? Can he continue to improve this team? Can they start winning those games against BYU and those games against Georgia State? So it'll be interesting to see if they continue to build momentum on into the offseason and into the 2020 season. But coming in at number 7 is the Tennessee Volunteers. At number 6, and I kind of struggled with having them here at number 6. I almost bumped them to number 7, but I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass, and that's the Texas A&M Aggies. Yes, they got pummeled by LSU over the weekend. Here's why. I think it's important for me to talk about my criteria for the power rankings in this final week. One of the things I considered is the talent level on these teams, the eye test, as well as these teams' strength of schedule. When you look at Texas A&M, they had by far one of the toughest schedules in all of college football. Granted, by virtue of them being in the SEC West, your strength of schedule is going to be up there because you got to face the LSUs, the Bamas, the Auburns. But they also had to face Clemson. They also had to face Georgia on the road. So they had a very tough record. And granted, they lost all those games, but they had a good showing against Auburn. They actually had a good showing against Georgia. Not quite sure what happened this past week in Death Valley. They died a horrible death, clearly. But this is a team that I think that this is a team that is still growing. This is a team that's still improving. It'll be interesting to see. I think in year 3, Jimbo Fisher has to win some of these games. I think that excuse goes away with them changing the culture, going from a spread option offense to a pro-style offense and building on the defense. They're going to have to start winning their fair share of games. They're going to have to beat an Auburn. They're going to have to beat an LSU. They're going to have to beat somebody that they're probably not supposed to beat in order to keep the excitement going in College Station. So at number 6 is the Texas A&M Aggies, who finished their season 7-5 and 4-4 in the SEC. Now, that brings me to number 5, and I've been laboring over this, but I had to do it. It's Alabama. And granted, I didn't call you up Dykes this week because we're ranked ahead of you guys. It's Alabama. Now, I know Alabama finished 10-2. They're still, I think they're currently ranked number 9. They finished second in the SEC West. So why are they number 5? Again, I'm looking at the eye test with this team. This is a team that has, by far, I think, easily the most talented roster in the SEC, but a depleted roster at that. They sustained a great deal of injuries this year to key players. And when you look at Alabama's schedule, their most impressive win is on the road at College Station against the Texas A&M Aggies, who are 7-5. They don't have a marquee win. They haven't beaten a ranked opponent. The only 2 ranked teams they faced this year, they lost to, and that's LSU and Auburn. So when I look at that, when I look at the fact that their best player is out for the year, and when I look at the fact that their defense is not what it was, and I look at the fact that they haven't beaten anyone ranked in their conference, in period, it's hard for me to justify this team being ranked higher. Again, 10-2, good year. I think Bama fans, as disappointing as this season may have been for them, given the aspirations they had, 10-2 is nothing to shake your head or look down about. But I think in terms of power rankings, in terms of this conference, you lost your 2 biggest. And you lost 2 games in the month of November where those games matter the most. So I got Alabama here at 5. They were almost at 4, but I had to put them here at 5. It's a good chance it'll be one of the few years they may be at 5. They will definitely be considered ranked higher, but I got them at 5, and that's Alabama. So that brings me to number 4, Auburn Tigers. They pulled it out. I think that's the score we got of the Iron Bowl. We at the War Report, we like the trolls. So that's the score there. Of course, Auburn finishes 9-3, 5-3, finishing 3rd in the West. And when I look at Auburn's strength of schedule, Auburn didn't look good at times this year. You can look to a lot of our content that we posted in the past. We've talked ad nauseum about what's wrong with Auburn, particularly the offense. But Auburn's strength of schedule was also, like Texas A&M, our strength of schedule was very nasty. We played Oregon in a neutral site. As a matter of fact, I believe of the 15 teams in the top 15, we have played 4 or 5 of those teams this year who are currently ranked in the top 15. So that speaks volumes as to how difficult of a schedule Auburn has played, and to end up at 9-3, winning. Granted, there was a lot of heroics, a lot of craziness in the Iron Bowl, but Auburn pulled it out. And head-to-head against Bama, that's their most impressive win. They beat Oregon, who's ranked 14 in the nation, and against Florida, Georgia, and LSU, I believe we've lost those games by a total of 21 points total against those 3 teams who are ranked in the top 10. So, the eye test, great defense, awesome defense, one of the best defensive lines in the nation, if not the best. Impressive defense. Granted, they got shredded a bit against Bama in the Iron Bowl. But up until that point, Auburn hasn't given up more than 24 points in a game. And just great leadership on that team that's allowed them to win 9 games this year. So coming in at number 4 is the Auburn Tigers, War Eagle. That brings me to number 3, and that is the Florida Gators. The Florida Gators are 10-2. They're 6-2 in the conference. They basically finished 2nd in the SEC East and are had a good year under Dan Mullen. They're probably going to get a New Year's Six bowl as they blasted Florida to finish out the year. Again, it'll be interesting to see once Dan Mullen finds. And let's be clear, Trask has been a bit of a revelation, and he's had a sensational year coming in after Felipe Franks was injured for the rest of the year. So what he's been able to do has been nothing short of impressive. And Dan Mullen has been able to take just plug and play, the next man up, and continue to win games. Eventually Dan Mullen's going to have to get Georgia. He's going to have to knock them off. Maybe next year may be the year. Who knows? But winning 10 games, first two seasons is a great start for Dan Mullen. I believe now Florida Gator fans are going to be hungry to represent the East in the SEC championship in the next few years. So Dan Mullen's going to have to get that big win eventually. So at number 3 is the Florida Gators. Coming in number 2 is the Georgia Bulldogs. No change really with the top 2 guys, as these two top teams are primed to meet up and face off in the SEC championship, which we will definitely be covering in the coming days, guys. I'm excited about this game. I think Georgia does pose a unique threat to LSU, in which Georgia actually has the best defense, I think, in the SEC, and you can argue in all of college football. They're great at all 3 levels. They do a really good job of taking away what you do well. And while Georgia, I don't think, has been tested in the secondary to the degree that they will be against LSU, they've definitely done a good job at attacking other teams or opposing offensive strengths. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this upcoming Saturday in the SEC championship against LSU, and how they make Joe Burrow uncomfortable in terms of how they intend to attack him. Do they go at him? Whether they do cut in coverage. We know that Kirby Smart likes to do different types of zone coverages and exotic looks. So it'll be interesting to see what they do defensively. Question is, do they have enough offensively? They've kind of been through their ups and downs offensively. There's been times where they've looked very mediocre offensively. Then there's been times they just do just enough to score. They have a quarterback who can make throws and make plays, as he did against Auburn on the road. They have a talented running back, Swift, who can run the ball for them. I think he did get a little banged up in the past weekend against Georgia Tech, but I think he should be good to go. They will be without George Pickens. He got suspended for, I believe, 1/2, for fighting in the game against Georgia Tech. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of weapons Fromm has throwing the ball. But again, we'll talk more about that in the upcoming days as we preview the SEC championship. At number 2, the Georgia Bulldogs. That brings me to number 1, and that is LSU. Again, no change there. LSU pretty much obliterated Texas A&M. My goodness. They've just been impressive all year long, guys. And again, I'm intrigued to see if they can keep things going as they get into the SEC championship. It's funny because the SEC championship, if they win, and I think even with a loss, depending on how they lose, I think LSU gets in regardless. It'll be interesting to see how teams defend LSU moving forward, and if they can make LSU uncomfortable. You can make a case that Auburn basically kind of did that at times. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to move the ball like they've been able to for much of the season this year. But Joe Burrow, I think, has a Heisman locked up. They've just been unstoppable at times, and I just look forward to seeing if they can keep this going. This offense. We've never seen an offense like this at LSU, I don't think, ever. So it's just been something to see. They've been putting on a show on a weekly basis, and I want to see what they can do against that vaunted Georgia defense. So, guys, that's it for me. That rounds out my power rankings for Week 14, the final week of the regular season of the 2019-2020 season. One thing I want to shout out the SEC for is that the SEC, out of a conference of 14, will put in 10 teams into the bowl season. So 10 teams out of our conference will be representing the SEC. That's something to be proud of. We always flex our SEC muscle wherever we go. I'm looking for a strong showing in the SEC. I mean, in the bowl season. I don't want us going 5 for 5. I don't want to see no 4 and 6. I want to see a good showing from our teams, and I want them to represent the conference well. So that'll be something to see as well. Again, guys, that wraps it up for today. Definitely Go and follow us on social media, Twitter at the War Report. Also subscribe to us on YouTube and definitely help us out there and keep it locked as we continue to put out content for you guys to consume. That's it. I'm Ceasear Walker, again, 1/4 of the War Report crew. Have a great week and God bless. War Eagle.